Tuesday evenings had always been our thing. Nothing fancy, just dinner at Romano's, the little Italian place 6 blocks from our house where the waiters knew our names and our usual order. Lena always got the penne arrabbiata, I stuck with the carbonara, and we'd split a bottle of the house red. I should have known something was wrong when she ordered the salmon instead. "How was your day?" I asked, twirling pasta around my fork, watching her push lettuce around her plate like she was solving a puzzle. "Fine. Busy," she replied, taking a sip of wine, then another. "Actually, I wanted to talk to you about something." The way she said it made my stomach tighten. That careful tone people use when they're about to deliver bad news they've been rehearsing. "We've been married 4 years," she continued, still not looking at me. "Good years. I love you, David. I need you to know that." The wine suddenly tasted metallic. "Okay," I said. "But I've been thinking about what I said at Sarah's wedding last month, about how I was only 22 when we got married, how I never really got to experience things," she explained. She was talking about her college roommate's wedding, where she'd gotten weepy about missed opportunities. I'd assumed it was just wedding nostalgia. "Lena, what are you trying to say?" I pressed. She finally met my eyes, and I saw something there I'd never seen before, a kind of desperate determination. "I want to open things up," she said, her voice artificially casual. "I want us to be able to see other people. Not leave each other, not break up. Just explore." The restaurant noise faded to a distant hum. I stared at my wife, this woman I'd loved since she was a shy graduate student, and felt something fundamental shift in my chest. "Other people," I repeated slowly. "It wouldn't change anything between us. I just want to know what else is out there. What I missed," she said, talking faster now, like she'd memorized this speech. "Lots of couples do it. We could have rules, boundaries." "You want to sleep with other men," I stated bluntly. The bluntness made her flinch. "I want us both to have the freedom to f*** other people," I interrupted, keeping my voice level, conversational. The couple at the next table glanced over. "Don't make it sound ugly, David. It's about growth, about not feeling trapped by choices we made when we were kids," she protested. I leaned back, studying her face. She was beautiful, had always been beautiful, with those wide green eyes and the way she tucked her hair behind her ear when nervous. She was doing it now. "And if I say no," I asked, "then we'll talk about it. Work through it together," she answered. "And if I say yes?" "Then we set boundaries, make rules, keep it separate from our marriage." I nodded slowly. "Let me ask you something, Lena. Is there someone specific you want to explore with?" "Number maybe." "I don't know," she stammered. The lie came too quickly. "It's not about anyone specific. It's about the principle." I picked up my wine glass. "Here's my principle. If you cheat on me, I'll divorce you. If you want to sleep with other men, I'll throw you out like trash and you'll get exactly what the prenup says you get, which is nothing." The color drained from her face. "David, I'm not talking about cheating. I'm talking about us agreeing." "Are you already sleeping with someone else?" I cut her off. "No," she said. Another lie, delivered with artificial calm. "Good, because that would be cheating, and we both know what happens then." Something flickered across her face. Calculation, maybe, or disappointment that her script wasn't playing out as planned. "I think we should go home," she said finally. The drive home was quiet except for the radio. I kept my eyes on the road, but I could feel her watching me, probably trying to figure out if I was angry or hurt. I was neither. I was thinking. At home, she went straight to the bathroom. I heard the shower running while I sat on the edge of our bed, listening to her move around behind the closed door. Something cold and certain settled in my chest. She'd already decided to cheat. The dinner hadn't been a request for permission. It had been an attempt to retroactively legitimize something that was already happening. The careful phrasing, the rehearsed arguments, the way she'd avoided my eyes when she lied about there being someone specific. When she came out, I was lying on my side, facing away. She slipped into bed beside me, hesitating before moving closer. "David," she whispered. "Yeah," I replied. "I love you. You know that, right?" "I know." She pressed her face against my back. "We can talk more tomorrow. Figure things out." "Sure," I said. I lay there listening to her breathing slow and deepen, feeling the weight of her arm across my ribs. She fell asleep easily, while I stared at the digital clock and planned her destruction. I'd always been good with details. It's what made me successful in forensic accounting, the ability to spot patterns, to see the story that numbers and dates were telling. I'd just never applied those skills to my own marriage. The morning after our dinner, I started at the beginning. Our phone account was in my name, and Verizon's online portal showed me everything. I sat in my home office at 6 a.m., coffee growing cold, scrolling through 3 months of call logs. The pattern emerged quickly once I knew what to look for. A number that appeared first in mid-February, just a few calls. By March, the calls were longer, more frequent. By April, they were happening every day. The number belonged to Marcus Whitmore. LinkedIn showed me senior marketing manager at Peterson & Associates, the same firm where Lena worked. 28 years old, MBA from Northwestern, divorced. His profile picture showed a lean guy with artfully messy hair and the kind of smile that probably worked well on women who felt trapped. I printed the call logs, highlighting the escalating pattern. The first call, February 14th, 2:17 p.m., duration 4 minutes, Valentine's Day. While I was planning our dinner reservation, she was starting this. Credit card statements told another story. Lunch charges at restaurants I'd never been to, always for 2 people, always on weekdays. The greenhouse on 5th Street, Cafe Luna, that expensive sushi place downtown. 17 charges over 2 months, always around $60 to $80. I cross-referenced the dates with her work calendar, which synced to our shared Google account. Client meeting with Peterson team. Strategy session downtown. Lunch with marketing department, all supposedly about work. The gym membership was newer. She'd joined Fitness First in March, claiming she needed to get back in shape. I'd encouraged her, even offered to pay for a trainer. The membership showed she was going 3 times a week, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. The location was 2 blocks from Marcus's apartment. I had to see for myself. Thursday evening, I told her I was working late. She kissed me goodbye, gym bag over her shoulder. I waited 10 minutes, then followed. The gym was glass-fronted with floor-to-ceiling windows. I parked across the street and watched through binoculars. At 6:15, Lena's Honda pulled in. At 6:23, a black BMW parked 3 spaces away. Marcus climbed out, looking around the parking lot like a man checking for surveillance. They didn't enter together. She went first. He followed 2 minutes later. Professional, cautious. I waited. At 7:45, they emerged separately again, same careful timing. But instead of going to their cars, they walked 2 blocks east. I followed on foot. The apartment building was modern with a security gate. I watched them disappear inside, then sat in my car for 2 hours, taking pictures of the building, the address, both license plates. When I got home at 11 p.m., Lena was in bed, freshly showered, workout clothes in the hamper. She looked up from her book. "How was your evening?" she asked. "Productive. Got a lot done," I replied. "Good. I had a great workout. Really pushed myself tonight." "I'm proud of you for sticking with it." "Thanks. It feels good to challenge myself," she said with a smile. The next morning, I created a file on my laptop. Evidence. Photos from my phone, scanned phone bills, credit card screenshots. Everything dated, everything organized. But I needed more than circumstantial evidence. The second phone revealed itself by accident. She'd been rushing to get ready, running late, and I heard buzzing from her gym bag. Not her usual ringtone, something generic. When she came back from the bathroom, she was holding a Samsung Galaxy I'd never seen. "New work phone," she said, not meeting my eyes. "They're making everyone carry them for security." "Really? That's strange," I commented. "Different companies, different policies," she explained dismissively. That afternoon, I called Peterson and Associates, claiming to be a vendor needing to reach Lena on her work phone. The receptionist was confused. "We don't provide separate phones for consultants, sir. Ms. Whitmore would use her personal phone." The Samsung was Marcus's gift, a dedicated line for their affair, showing premeditation that made my chest tight. I hired a private investigator. Margaret Reeves came recommended by my divorce attorney friend Tom. 3 days of surveillance, I told her. I need photographs, timestamps, documentation, everything that would hold up in court. "Suspected affair?" she asked. "Confirmed affair. I need evidence for divorce proceedings." The photos arrived 48 hours later. Lena and Marcus entering his apartment building. Lena and Marcus having lunch, her hand on his arm. Lena and Marcus in the parking lot, sharing what was clearly not a goodbye handshake. The final photo was the one I'd been waiting for. Lena leaving Marcus's apartment at 9:30 p.m. on a Wednesday, hair disheveled, carrying her gym bag. The timestamp showed she'd been inside for 3 hours. I printed everything, organized it chronologically, and added it to my evidence file. The investigation was complete. The case was airtight. Now I needed to plan her destruction. Sarah Martinez had a reputation for being ruthless. Her law office occupied the top floor of a downtown high-rise, all glass and steel and expensive furniture. Tom had recommended her with a warning. "She's brilliant, but she doesn't do reconciliation. If you hire Sarah, you're going to war." War was exactly what I wanted. "Mr. Phillips," she said, shaking my hand with the firm grip of someone who'd crushed opposing counsel in courtrooms across the state. "Tom tells me you need a divorce attorney who specializes in adultery cases." "That's correct," I confirmed. "Before we begin, I need to understand your goals. Are you looking to end your marriage amicably, or are you seeking to maximize financial advantage?" she asked. "I want to destroy her," I stated flatly. Sarah's expression didn't change. "Legally speaking, of course." "Of course. Tell me about your prenuptial agreement." I'd insisted on the prenup before we married, despite Lena's protests. She'd signed it reluctantly, after weeks of arguments about trust. The document was ironclad. In case of divorce due to adultery, she would receive minimal alimony, no claim to marital assets, and would be responsible for her own legal fees. "Excellent," Sarah said, reviewing the contract. "This holds up in court. Your wife's infidelity triggers the adultery clause, which means she gets essentially nothing. But we need to prove the affair conclusively." I slid the evidence file across her desk. Phone records, credit card statements, surveillance photos, time-stamped documentation of 17 separate meetings over 3 months. Sarah studied each piece carefully. "This is thorough. Very thorough. This level of evidence makes divorce proceedings straightforward, but I sense you want more than just a favorable settlement." "What do you mean?" I asked. "You mentioned wanting to destroy her. Divorce is just the beginning. There are other avenues we can explore." She explained the workplace angle. Marcus Whitmore held a supervisory position over Lena. Their affair violated company policy regarding relationships between managers and subordinates. It created a hostile work environment that could be grounds for termination. "If we file a complaint with their HR department, both your wife and Mr. Whitmore could face disciplinary action up to and including termination," Sarah explained. "The timing would be crucial. Ideally, we'd want the complaint to land just as the divorce proceedings become public." "How public?" I inquired. Divorce filings are public record. If we time it correctly, your wife would be served with papers at her office, creating maximum professional embarrassment while simultaneously facing an HR investigation that could end her career. The dark satisfaction I'd been feeling deepened into something more focused. What about financial consequences beyond the prenup? Several possibilities. If she's been using marital funds for her affair, those restaurant charges for instance, we can seek reimbursement. If she's been lying about working late while actually meeting her lover, we can document time theft. Sarah opened another folder. I researched Peterson and Associates Employee Handbook. They have strict policies against personal relationships that could compromise professional judgment. Zero tolerance for using company time and resources for personal matters. How would we prove that? I asked. Email records. If she's been communicating with Mr. Whitmore through company email, we can subpoena those records. If she's been using company time to conduct her affair, we can document the pattern through her work calendar and billing records. I thought about Lena's supposed client meetings, her strategic lunch breaks, the way she'd been coming home later while claiming increased work responsibilities. There's something else, Sarah added. Mr. Whitmore's divorce was finalized only 8 months ago. His ex-wife might be interested to know that he's already involved in another workplace affair. We spent the next hour planning the execution. Timing was everything. The divorce papers would be served at 2 p.m. on a Friday, maximum workplace visibility, weekend, to let the news percolate. The HR complaint would be filed simultaneously. Sarah's investigator would document their meeting that evening, providing final proof of the affair continuing even as divorce proceedings began. The psychological impact would be devastating. Are you prepared for the emotional toll this will take? Sarah asked as I prepared to leave. She chose to betray me. I'm choosing to make her face the consequences, I replied. Once we begin, there's no going back. I thought about Tuesday dinners at Romano's, about the careful lies, about the way she'd claimed to love me while planning her next meeting with Marcus. I'm certain, I said firmly. Then we begin Monday morning. I drove home past the gym where she was supposedly working out, past the apartment building where she was actually betraying everything we'd built. The house was dark. She was still exercising. I sat in my car in our driveway, looking at the life we'd created together. In 3 days, none of it would matter anymore. My phone buzzed. A text from Lena. Running late tonight. Don't wait up. Love you. I typed back, no problem. Love you too. The game would end soon. She just didn't know it yet. Friday morning felt different. I woke at 5 a.m. with crystal clarity that comes before important events. Lena was still sleeping, her face peaceful in the dim light. I studied her features, knowing this was the last morning I'd wake beside her. I dressed carefully, navy suit, white shirt, red tie, the colors of power. I wanted to look successful when people started talking about what had happened to David Phillips's marriage. Lena was making coffee when I came downstairs, humming under her breath. She smiled that automatic morning smile of married couples. You're up early, she observed, reaching for a second mug. Big day ahead, I replied. Anything interesting? She asked. You could say that. She handed me coffee, adding cream the way I liked it. Such a normal morning routine. In 8 hours, our marriage would be over, and she had no idea. I might be late tonight, she said casually. Marcus wants to go over the Peterson quarterly report. The lie came so easily, so naturally. I wondered if she even realized she was lying anymore. Of course, work hard, I said. I kissed her goodbye, tasting coffee and mint toothpaste. She pressed closer, her hand on my chest. I love you, she whispered. I love you too, I replied. The last honest thing I'd ever say to her. At 9 a.m., I called in sick. I drove to a coffee shop 6 blocks from Peterson and Associates and waited. Sarah had coordinated everything with military precision. The process server would arrive at 2 p.m. during the busiest part of the afternoon. The HR complaint would be filed at 2:15, ensuring management would be reviewing evidence while Lena processed the divorce papers. At 1:45, I parked across from her office building. The process server was already there, a professional woman who looked like anyone's administrator. She checked her watch and walked inside. My phone buzzed at 2:03. A text from Sarah. "Papers served. She's been notified." I imagined Lena's face when handed the manila envelope, the confusion, then dawning horror. I imagined her co-workers watching, whispering. At 2:18, another text. HR complaint filed. Both subjects being called to meeting now. Marcus would walk into that conference room expecting routine business and find himself facing termination paperwork. The evidence would be spread across the table. Photos, phone records, documentation of their 3-month affair. At 3:47, Lena's Honda pulled out of the parking garage, moving too fast, tires squealing as she turned. I followed at a distance, watching her erratic driving, the way she kept reaching for her phone. She went home. I watched her stumble toward the front door, fumbling with keys. She was inside for 12 minutes, then emerged carrying a suitcase. She'd gone to pack, assuming she could still come home. The locksmith had finished that morning. New deadbolts, new garage code, new security system. She tried the key 3 times before understanding. I watched her lean against the door, shoulders shaking, phone pressed to her ear. At 4:30, Marcus's BMW pulled into our driveway. He approached Lena carefully, like approaching a wounded animal. They stood talking for 10 minutes, his hands gesturing, her arms crossed defensively. Then she got in his car, leaving her Honda at the curb. My phone rang at 5:15. Lena's number. "David," she said, her voice thick from crying. "Please, we need to talk." "No, we don't," I replied curtly. "This is insane. You can't destroy everything because of a mistake." "A mistake? Is that what you're calling it?" I challenged. "Please, come home. Let's talk like adults." "You don't have a home anymore," I stated. "David, I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you," she pleaded. "The way we worked through your request for an open marriage?" I asked coldly. Silence. "You wanted to experience other people. Now you're getting exactly what you asked for." "That's not... I never wanted this," she protested. "You wanted to Marcus Whitmore. You've been doing it for months. Now you can do it in his apartment instead of lying to me." "You're being cruel," she accused. "I'm being honest. For the first time in months." She was crying now. "Please, David. I'll do anything. I'll quit my job. I'll never see him again." "You already did what I wanted. You signed a prenup that gives you nothing when you commit adultery," I reminded her. "The prenup was just a formality," she started. "It was insurance, and today it paid off." I hung up. The restraining order was filed at 6 p.m. Lena couldn't come within 500 feet of the house, couldn't contact me directly. By Monday, the entire office would know she'd been fired for an affair, that her husband had divorced her, that she'd lost everything in one afternoon. I drove home as the sun set, past the gym where she'd pretended to work out, past the apartment building where she'd actually been destroying our marriage. The house felt different, quieter, cleaner, like a weight had been lifted. I poured whiskey and sat in the living room, looking at the empty space where her things had been. My phone showed 17 missed calls, 12 voicemails I'd never listened to, 43 text messages I'd never read. Tomorrow, Sarah would file for a permanent restraining order. By next week, the divorce would be final, and Lena would be someone else's problem. Marcus's problem, specifically. I wondered how long that would last. 6 months later, I was living in a downtown condo overlooking the river, working for a firm specializing in corporate fraud cases. The divorce had been finalized in record time. Turns out when you have ironclad evidence of adultery and a prenup covering every loophole, the legal system moves quickly. Lena got exactly what the contract specified: nothing. I learned about her new life through social media monitoring and occasional reports from mutual friends. She'd moved in with Marcus after being evicted from the apartment she'd rented. The security deposit had been beyond her means. The prenup had left her with minimal savings and no claim to our joint assets. Marcus had been fired from Peterson and Associates the same day. His termination permanent after the HR investigation revealed the full scope of their misconduct. Using company resources for personal communication, falsifying timesheets, creating a hostile work environment, the violations prevented him from receiving unemployment benefits. They'd both struggled to find work. Word travels fast in our industry, and their affair had become cautionary gossip at networking events. Lena found temporary work at a small consulting firm, making half her previous salary. Marcus took a position at a startup that folded within 3 months. The financial pressure had strained their relationship predictably. Without the excitement of secrecy, without the thrill of betrayal, they'd discovered they had little in common beyond sexual chemistry and mutual dishonesty. Friends reported increasingly frequent arguments, public confrontations, the ugly dissolution of a partnership built on workplace convenience. Marcus had been hospitalized after an incident outside a bar in the warehouse district. Multiple contusions, broken nose, 3 cracked ribs. The police report listed it as a mugging, but the circumstances were suspicious. His wallet hadn't been taken, and security cameras had mysteriously malfunctioned. I'd been in Chicago that weekend, attending a conference. Several witnesses could verify my presence at the hotel bar until past midnight. The guilt I'd expected never materialized. Instead, I felt clarity. The betrayal had revealed something fundamental about human nature, about the masks people wore when they thought no one was watching. I'd learned to read those calculations in other people now. The subtle signs of deception, the careful words revealing more than they concealed. It was useful in my new work, and even more useful in dating. Because I was dating again. Carefully, strategically, with methodical approach I'd once reserved for complex financial investigations. I'd learned to separate romantic feelings from practical considerations, to evaluate potential partners based on actions rather than words. The women I met now were different from Lena. More direct, more honest about their motivations. Or maybe I was just better at recognizing the signs of someone who could be trusted. Last week, I'd received a LinkedIn message from Jennifer Walsh, a mutual friend from college. David, I wanted to reach out because I heard about Lena's troubles. I'm so sorry for everything you went through. I'd stared at the message for a long time, remembering Jennifer from college parties, group dinners, the wedding where she'd been Lena's maid of honor. My response had been simple: thank you. Nothing more. I'd learned that sometimes the most powerful response revealed nothing about your emotional state while acknowledging the other person's attempt at communication. The man who'd sat through that dinner at Romano's wouldn't have understood this calculated restraint. He'd have wanted to explain, to justify, to make sure everyone understood exactly what had happened. This man understood that truth spoke for itself, and that the most devastating response to manipulation was complete emotional detachment. I finished my whiskey and looked out at the city lights reflecting on the water. Somewhere out there, Lena was probably lying awake wondering how her planned affair had led to this devastation. Somewhere, Marcus was probably looking at his medical bills and wondering if his broken relationship with a married woman had been worth it. I didn't wonder about them anymore. They'd made their choices, and I'd made mine. The difference was that I'd made mine with full knowledge of the consequences. Tomorrow, I had a dinner meeting with a potential client whose husband had been embezzling from their joint accounts. She'd found the evidence, built the case, and now wanted advice on how to proceed. I'd help her understand her options, explain the legal pathways available. It was important work, helping people protect themselves from those who would take advantage of trust and intimacy. I'd become very good at it. Experience, as they say, is the best teacher. And so, we've reached the end of today's story. Was it what you expected, or did it take a twist you didn't see coming? I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Share them in the comments below, and let's get a conversation going. If this story kept you hooked, make sure to hit that like button. And if you're new here or just haven't subscribed yet, now's the perfect time to join our community. I bring you fresh, captivating stories every day, so click that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.